We all are quite familiar with the havoc aircraft carriers can wreak on the enemy countries, but there is force even more powerful than them, and it is called nature. Imagine a ship as big as multiple football fields, stranded in the deep sea, while hundreds meter-long waves are thrashing against it. All that when hundreds of highly trained sailors and pilots, along with some of the most sophisticated equipment, are on board. So, how does the giant aircraft carriers in modern warfare deal with it? What makes the US military trust their greatest weapons, enough to put them head-on with the unforgiving force of nature? Let's find out. Aircraft carriers are the jewel in the crown of the US military that has helped assert its dominance around the globe. Air support plays a key role in conventional warfare, which even in the 21st century is being fought on many fronts. Be it Ukraine-Russia, Israel-Palestine, or Saudi-Houthis, air dominance has always tipped the balance. Although there are multiple layers of the components that help a country achieve air superiority, fighter jets have the leading role. Unfortunately, despite all the technological advancements, modern aircraft still experience a major challenge of traveling long distances, especially when equipped with a payload. Take the F-35A, for example. It is one of the most dreaded fighter jets to have been ever developed by the US. But it can only travel up to 1,100 kilometers with internal fuel tanks. Unsurprisingly, these aircraft cannot reach the enemy territory on their own, especially when it comes to hostile countries in an altogether different continent. Aircraft carriers come to fix this problem by carrying hundreds of fighter jets on board that can launch offensive or preventive strikes in any country in the world. As of this moment, the US Navy has 11 aircraft carriers in total, which makes up 40% of the global aircraft carrier fleet. Some of them are nuclear-powered, allowing them to stay in the high seas for as long as it is required. These aircraft carriers roam around the oceans of the world and are always ready to launch an offensive against hostile regimes. The sheer terror of these strikers frequently brings the rogue regimes in check, whether it is China, Iran, or North Korea. Given their capabilities, they are naturally the first target of all hostile regimes. However, launching an attack on aircraft carriers is not a piece of cake, because these ships are just as good at defense as they are at offense. Let's walk through the different layers of security these enormous ships possess to understand why it is impossible to sink them. For starters, the aircraft carrier never cruises alone and always has a group of other ships along with it, collectively known as the Striker Group. The components in each Striker Group vary based on the objectives and the potential threats experienced by the carriers. Typically, each carrier is accompanied by 2 guided missile cruisers, 2 anti-aircraft warships, a submarine, and 2 destroyers or frigates. Each of these components has a highly specialized role and works collectively to build a multi-layered security system that can fend off any attack in minutes. Threat perception is the first layer of the system, which essentially outlines the potential threats and allows the Navy to prepare accordingly. It also allows the US government to decide on whether to take offensive or defense strategies to combat the threat. The Navy conducts threat perception via both air and ocean. It has a fleet of reconnaissance aircraft, drones, and submarines at its disposal that can be launched to intercept enemy communication, identify the targets within enemy territory, and take photographs and videos of the strategic military movements of the hostile country, all while being undetected. The notable component of the reconnaissance missions include the strategic reconnaissance aircraft, such as U-2 Dragon and RQ-4 Global Hawk, that can travel at altitudes of 70,000 feet and are equipped with an array of sensors, including electro-optical, infrared, and radar imaging systems. These are followed by tactical reconnaissance aircraft, including RC-135 and MQ-9 Reaper, which are capable of intercepting communications, electronic signals, and other data. Lastly, The electronic and signals intelligence aircraft analyze the information coming from different sources and provide a comprehensive real-time threat perception to the commanders. Multi-role reconnaissance and special mission aircraft can also be used for certain objectives. Once the threat is brought to light, the president has to pick from a defensive or offensive approach. Taking the offensive usually means an attack on the already identified targets to cripple the enemy before it can launch an offensive. Again, the type of jets that participate in the offensive is dictated by the nature and the location of the target. However, if the president decides to go with the defensive approach, all the members of the striker groups are alerted and prepared to deal with any kind of attack. The first line of defense is the Aegis Combat System, which is a fully integrated weapons system developed by the United States to provide both offensive and defensive capabilities. It is designed to detect, track, and engage a wide range of air, surface, and subsurface threats. Almost all ships in the striker groups are equipped with the Aegis. The key component of the Aegis combat system is Spy-1 radar, which is a powerful multi-function phased array radar capable of tracking hundreds of targets simultaneously. It offers long-range detection and tracking of aircrafts, missiles, and surface ships. The command and decision system integrates the data from various sensors and coordinates, the engagement of targets, which is followed by a weapon control system that launches counterattacks to bring down enemy drones, ships, on-ground launch sites, and submarines. While it is impossible to get through the Aegis, there are additional layers to the carrier's defense that kick in when the enemy's missile, aircraft, or drone gets too close to it. The Phalanx CIWs offers a last-ditch defense against incoming missiles and aircraft using a radar-guided Gatling gun. Electronic warfare and decoys work by jamming the enemy's radar, making it harder to engage with aircraft carriers. With all of that said, the aircraft carriers do not only face threats from hostile countries, nature poses just as many risks. See, these striker groups have to be ready to engage with any country within the notice of a few hours. So it is rare to see them anchored at a shore. At least half of the fleet is floating on high seas at all times, making the entire globe accessible for the US military. Unsurprisingly, the ocean can be pretty unforgiving at times because of the unexpected icebergs and extremely strong storms. Fortunately, the technological advancements have not only benefited weapon systems, but also the forecast systems. With the help of technology, these powerful radars can predict potential natural hazards in advance, allowing captains to take alternative routes. Furthermore, the submarines submerged under the ocean can also relay important information about the terrain to help the captain develop the safest possible route. Although these systems are highly unlikely to fail, even if they do, the Navy ships are well equipped to deal with anything nature throws at them. For starters, the deck is emptied at the first sign of a storm, and all the aircraft are parked in the massive hangars. It protects the extremely expensive aircraft from sustaining any damage. The second important component in this particular line of defense is the carrier itself. See? The lighter the weight, the easier it is for the waves to push it over. However, even the smallest US carrier to have ever sailed, also known as USS America, weighed around 14380 tons. The contemporary carriers, on the other hand, weigh around 100,000 tons, which gives them significant stability and helps them ride over the waves rather than being tossed by them. Also, the drafts of carriers are really deep, meaning a significant portion is submerged underwater, which adds to the stability. The shape and structure of the carriers are also designed in a way to produce an extremely stable platform that reduces rolling and pitching motion in the rough seas. Flared and bulbous bow design helps the carrier defect waves, reduce their impact, and reduce water resistance, which improves stability and also reduces fuel consumption. The carriers also feature dedicated ballast and stability systems that have the sole job of keeping the ship afloat and moving in all circumstances. Adjustable ballast is the tank that can be filled with water to adjust the ship's weight distribution according to the center of gravity to enhance stability. Some carriers also feature advanced stabilizers that have proactive components such as fins and gyroscopes to counteract the rolling motion produced by the waves. In circumstances when everything fails, the carriers have enough strength to withstand the threat and sustain minimal damage. Upon reaching the obstacle, the captain can switch the engine in reverse to quickly reduce the ship's speed, and the robust hull, which is constructed out of thick, reinforced steel plates, can withstand the forces exerted by high waves and other obstacles. Even if a wave manages to crack through the hull, the compartmentalization of the hull ensures only one part of the carrier is breached. The rest remains buoyant, and the functionality of the carriers is not compromised. While it is quite clear breaching through the Navy's defense is not easy for both hostile regimes and nature, it must be said that nothing is invincible. There are vulnerabilities in every system, and the forces of nature can be overwhelming at times. It warrants adequate training of the crew to deal with the worst, and fortunately, the US Navy is among the best when it comes to that. Routine drills are held both on and offshore to protect the carriers and the precious lives on board in unforeseen circumstances. The cornerstone of success for the US military has always been their rigorous and extensive training, which helps them deal with all sorts of threats, whether it is by nature or a hostile country. That said, there were certain times when the preparedness of the US Navy fell short, but that deserves a video of its own. For now, this is it. We hope it has been informative and fun. Please leave a comment and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. We will see you in the next one.